Welcome to another Enjoying Art member painting hour. Before we start it, please give this video a like, share with your friends, and turn on notification so you will not going to miss any lesson like this.
So the first step we need to do is to work out the composition. The first thing, I want you to see the whole object and say I'm going to leave the left side a little bit more room over here, a little bit more than the photo reference. It's just work it out, what's the highest, what's the lowest point, what's the left, what's the right. I don't want to put the X right in the middle of the paper, so I'm going to set it a little bit about here, okay, like this. So not all the way to the right side. And the bottom, I'm going to set it right over here. So basically right now you're making the big shape right over here, right at this location, like that, right? This actually is not easy to do because we get used to become automatic. Like most, especially most beginners, they are kind of like draw something automatically, draw everything in the middle of the page. So you have to think about the balance right from the beginning. It's very important. Right from the beginning, how you're going to create a balance. You also can plan on the catch the shadow if you want to, and plan on the secondary object like the side over here and the little folding over here. Plan that into the balance. That's just very important. So you're not working into inside the eggs yet. So because this step is very crucial, if you don't get the whole object, the whole thing as the main object is the eggs, well, there's going to be more important eggs than other eggs, but we're working in the eggs areas first. So I'm going to give you a minute or two so that work out the composition is very crucial for the success of your drawing. Now the next step is do a little bit more planning. Since the big shape we already place it in the right location, now we're going to divide it. So always start from big to smaller, because if you cannot figure it out properly the biggest shape, you should not think about the small shape, right? Because if the big shape you haven't got it, and then the small shape laid inside the big shape, it should not be defined. That is the rule. So now I'm going to divide the shape over here into smaller shape. Now see, that is how easy just to deduct it into smaller area like that. So this is also a part of the planning stage, composition. Now it's very easy to get it in place. When you hold the pencil, making sure you hold it a little bit loose. And actually I want this a little bit closer. This little gap I'm going to have a little bit closer together. So I'm going to don't have it that far away. You can move it over, or if you want you can make it overlap. So use your own judgment. Okay, now the eggs are already created in location. That's good, right? I'm gonna have a little folding over here. Maybe I'm gonna have this a little bit higher and then curve a little more and coming down like that. And if you want, you can have this all the way coming on this side if you want. So you can modify, you can change it however you want. Okay, now I'm gonna move this over here and try to avoid this being so parallel, and I can have this stop, and I'm going to have this a little bit softer over here so that it kind of like lessen the tension over here like that. And now on this side we have a little bit folding over here. Let's make it look interesting. Okay, a little bit over here too, like that. Okay, so after you done this step, make sure you double check, because this is very crucial for the success And if you decide on, okay, this is the way we go, and then it more likely you won't come back to change it again. And also it's gonna be like a lot more work for you to change after you decided on this step. So we still not talk about the form yet. We just plan the place. Everything looks flat. Alright, the next thing is the real drawing. Okay, so far it's only the planning, right? So I'm gonna use this wine charcoal, soft. Okay, wine charcoal have hard, medium, and soft. And if you use hard, it will have a little difficult to draw and land the powder onto the paper. So what I'm gonna do now is very crucial. I want you to use your squint your eye. I want you to squint your eye, and when you're thinking about what is should be lighter, what is need to be darker. So watch out. I'm gonna only leave the first egg at the front a little bit lighter. Yes, hi. And at this point, you might want to use the 3B. Yeah, a little bit softer. Yeah, 3B will be good. You don't want to use the darkest, and you don't want to use the hard. Use the hard, you cannot apply it to the paper. Okay, because this is my last page, so it's some texture coming out from the supporting board. So now I'm just giving the wine charcoal and putting it on the paper, except there's 2 eggs at the front, and everything else. Now I'm going to use my finger or use your any other blender, like for example the paper towel. It will be really good. Now I'm going to soften this. Okay. Now this step is also very important because you always start from big to small. You don't want to start from small to big. Well, you can do that. You can draw any way you want. But however, it would take more attention later. You have to make yourself very focused in order to unite all the pieces to become harmony together. But you started from the as the part of the process, it will make it easier for you and more relaxing. Now see that I just toned the outside area. I'm already done with the wine charcoal because wine charcoal just help us to tone the paper. And after that, we're gonna come to the pencil. And this is inside the charcoal pencil, basically compressed charcoal. So this is now what I'm looking for. Now there's a hard charcoal pencil because I'm not ready to apply it really dark yet. I'm going to actually refine and redraw the area. I'm going to come over here, redraw that. Okay, spare with me and wait for me. Okay, I'm going to do a little bit fine tuning as Angela complained before. Now I lost my drawing. Now we bring it back. Okay, bring it back over here and come back here and look at that. It still have it, kind of recognize it. I'm not sure how much, but you can redraw and refigure things out and making even better decision. Okay, come here, coming on this side. Okay, now I'm gonna move this a little bit lower, make the egg a little bit thicker. That's good. And by the way, I'm saying egg because it's easier to identify what I'm drawing and their location. But actually, when you're drawing, you should not think about eggs. You just think about the line and the shape, and thinking about the location, the value, the texture of that area. Okay, now this is good. Now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna change to medium charcoal. Now I'm gonna start making some shape. Okay, I can finish this step and then you can continue. I'm gonna make the shape over here, and then I'm make the shape on the outside over here. Okay, right, here you go. Now I'm gonna have the shape over here. If you can, try to use the same angle of movement when you apply the charcoal. Have a dominate, consistent. This would be, for graphite, this would be a 4B or so. Yeah, actually, I have it like about inch away. Yeah, because I'm more aware of the small area, the smaller shape. But when you like earlier when I draw in the entire page with the vine charcoal, you don't need to be that careful because you're drawing a very large area. So now I'm gonna just add a little darker shape, and you can see after I add this little darker shape, are you aware of? Oh yeah, actually it looks like a little bit too dark for the eggs, except the first and the first area egg. It looks a little bit too dark, but actually it's not going to be look too dark. Actually, we can make it even darker if you want. A little bit later, I'm going to have that. Okay, just be patient, giving the shape over here, and then aware of the value contrast is very important. And how dark the area that you want to apply to totally depends on the photo reference. It depends on how much contrast you want to create between inside this egg and the outside over here. And if you don't want it to stand out that much, you don't want to apply that much value contrast. Okay, so you control the visual element for you to express the things that you want to, and also control how much detail that you want to give to an area. Okay, like that. Apply a little bit over here. Now it roughly it appears to be a little bit more dimensional. Okay, like that. So this is a medium charcoal pencil, and over here I'm gonna also apply a little bit to the shadow side, like that. And over here I'm gonna apply a little bit over here. It's still using a very similar consistent movement with my charcoal pencil, like that. Like on the other side, I'm gonna have a little bit darker over here, but I don't want to make a really big deal of it. So this is the rough layout of value and contrast, like that. So this is have the nice starting point, like that. This what is say the medium. When it say medium, I think it's about 2B for medium. But in the graphite pencil, if I use graphite for this purpose, I would use probably 4B. But you know, the charcoal pencil doesn't give you a whole range of choices. Okay, now I'm done my step. Now you can see that roughly you bring back the idea, the contrast on the paper. Our next step, it would be adjusting the balance. The balance is very important. So now I'm going to use a little bit soft pencil. Now I'm use a soft called 4B charcoal pencil. And I can see the whole thing on the top over here. I want it to be a little bit darker because I don't want this look similar to that, because I'm going to make this a little bit darker. I'm going to use, can be a little different angle. Hold the pencil, the pressure, control the pressure. Don't make it too dark. Okay, let's make it a little bit darker on the top over here. And look at your drawing, also look at the reference too. Like, however, the reference, it doesn't look the way you want, so you have to exaggerate things. I'm gonna make a little bit darker over here. I just feeling this side needs to be darker than this. And I'm gonna coming over here, do a little adjustment. I'm gonna make the edge over here a little bit sharper, like that. And they're actually much better already. As soon as you're turning one area of the drawing a little bit darker, and the balance created much better. I make this a little bit darker too, like that. Okay. And over here, I'm gonna have a little bit darker. Now you can use a different angle, so you can make this area a little bit darker. It's like that. That's good. I'm gonna have a little angle. The adjustment, like in watercolor painting, you know, you have some need to be lighter, some need to be darker, right? So you use the lifting, or at this point you would use, for the drawing over here, you want to use the needle eraser to do the lifting. Now you can see, also thinking about but between the light side and the shadow side of the egg, right? You see the shape a little bit darker or lighter. So I'm gonna make sure the shadow side is dark enough. Okay, if the shadow side not dark enough, it doesn't show the whole form turning over. Okay, like that. Okay, I'm gonna going around to find out this shadow side also need to be darker, and so on, like that. And I'm going to have a little bit contrast on this side. And totally depends on how much contrast you want to give, how much attention you want to give based on, because of the value contrast. If you give more contrast, you would give more attention into the area. So you control it. Do you want that much attention? If your answer is no, that means you need to lessen the contrast. If the answer is yeah, I want it more, in that case, give a little more. Like the outside over here can be darker, can be lighter. It is not going to change the illusion that give it to the viewer. They're still going to look like egg, but however, where you want them to look more in the area, or pay more attention to it, or also give it a little bit more importance into the area. That's all depends on how you would use the value contrast. Value contrast is your judgment, is your attention. You actually give it the intentionally to the balance of your drawing. Okay, now I just roughly give a little bit changes just to that drawing. Now you can see the quite different, and the drawing will look more and more finished, like that. Charcoal drawing is a very fun medium, and yeah, if you want something much darker, instead of keep pushing down and down and down and try to make it darker, you would rather to switch to a darker pencil. That's a very good point. You don't want it just having the whole paper. And also the other thing is very important. You don't want to have the dark areas everywhere. Okay, you want to have the dark area to be more, the darkest area to be more exclusive to some area only. Now I'm going to use my paper towel. Now I'm going to do a little bit blending just a little bit, because actually I think I use my skin is a little bit better. I don't want it to be over smooth, so I use the texture of my fingers actually work better. And like that, I'm gonna smooth a little bit on this side and control how smooth you want it to be. If you don't want it to be too smooth, you want to control it. And charcoal is very easy to overdo and make it too dark. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do as a part of the adjustment, I'm going to start lifting some area, and like in this area on the top over here, I'm going to lift it, make it a little bit lighter. I'm going to make it a little bit lighter right over here, like that, and lift it a little bit lighter on this side, like that. That's good. Okay, and over here I'm going to lift a little bit, so you can draw the same direction as your charcoal line and make it a little bit consistent, like that. Yep, you just pretend this is the white pencil, and the same direction you're doing that to make it a lot more consistent. Over here I'm going to draw that like this, and a little bit over here, it's not too much, like that. Now it look more finished already. On this I'm going to also draw a little bit, make it a little bit lighter over here, so make some variety in the background over here. I don't want it to be looks flat or too consistent. I'm going to add a little bit light shape over here too, like that, a little bit, draw a little bit. Okay, and over here I'm going to just give a little bit thin white line, like that. It's very easy, the adjusting. Now, and part of the adjusting, I also lift up a little bit for the reflected light. But if you have difficulty to lift up, you need to stretching. You need the eraser. Okay, so I got in over here. I'm going to just lift up a little bit on the edge over here. That's good enough. Okay, so this one also lift up a little bit in the edge of the shadow side. That's good, right? It looks close to finish. And now a little bit over here, and I'm gonna light up a little bit over here, like that. Right, like this. And I'm going to also make the outside a little bit lighter. I don't want it to be too much merged into the egg over here, but I don't want it to be look too defined, but I don't want it to be totally lost. So you control the presentation. I'm gonna be draw a little bit line over here, blur that a little bit. I don't want it to be too clear in the background, like that. It's very much like a painting. You think the same way as the painting. There's no difference. It's just charcoal only have dark and light, so you can't have warm and cool or the other color, but it's the same way that you think mostly. Okay, and a little bit lighter, make it expand the shape up over here a little bit, but I don't want it to be overly too light and for the egg in the background. Okay, like that. Okay, and I'm going to soften a little bit at the bottom over here. Now the things come together pretty nicely. You are presenting a new relationship. You're not actually drawing the egg. You are using the egg to present your idea of relationship. Okay, that's good. I'm gonna have a little bit light over here too, like that. And over here, I'm gonna create a little texture at the front over here. Just put make the eraser to be a little bit flat, like that. I'm gonna have a little consistent at this angle, like that. It's showing the texture of the table. Okay, this doesn't need to be so dark. Don't want to have everything so dark. So some is just, you think it's too dark, it just light it up. That is adjusting. Adjustment process is very exclusive and very important. And if you don't, because this is the time that you are making your own statement. It's not just based on the reference. It's more based on your feeling. As the enjoying art practice, enjoying art method, adjusting is most important. I always say that how you start it doesn't really matter. It's more important how you make the decision on creating or define the final balance with the adjusting. Adjusting, that's just the time for you to making something unique to become your own, become with your personality, because you're adjusting based on your feeling. And now if you look at my table, you can see something a little bit more well defined. I don't want to be all flat, so I need to create some kind of texture too. And the shadows, I need to be light up a little bit, so you don't want everywhere it looks so dark. It's so easy for a charcoal drawing, making everything look dark. If everything look dark, it look like it's overall too heavy. And also you don't want to be overly too smooth. You still need some texture, even the light texture or the dark texture. Okay, over here I'm gonna outside also add a little bit light over here. Now it's interesting, I'm gonna actually pick up a little bit texture over here and showing there is the fold of the fabric. Okay, I think this shadow side need to be light up a little bit. Now the form is very strong. It's already seeing three-dimensional. But also still think about that how you're going to make a point of what are the dominant objects, what are secondary. Okay. If something too dark, light it up. If you think, oh, I'm not supposed to light it up, I want it to be a little bit darker, that's easy. Come back to give it some darker shade. That's easy. And keep some texture. So you feel like it looks like a painting. It's like a black and white painting. You're going to have a little bit more reflected light on this and the end over here. Just lift up a little bit. On the edge over here, a little bit more. But for the object at the top, it doesn't really see much reflected because the distance. So it doesn't really look that much. Screen your eye so you can make a better judgment of whether or not the shadow side dark enough. I'm going to use the hard pencil and come back over here because I don't want it to be too dark, too sudden. The same thing when you use graphite. When you want to control how dark the area would be, you want to keep it a little bit lighter. You want to use a little lighter pencil, like a 2H or 4H, right? In the top over here on this side, I'm going to create a little bit contrast, just showing the outside a little bit light with contrast with the inside a little bit dark, like that. This is a little bit too consistent up over here, so I'm going to break this a little bit. So when you look at it, it's break too much, and I'm going to break a little more, like that. That actually feel a little bit better. And now you can add some areas a little bit sharper. Some areas need to be smoother. Those are part of the contrast. There's need to be lighter on the edge over here. And you don't have to think it's egg. You think about how you use the egg as the reference to express your idea of balance. I'm gonna have a little light over here showing this is actually part of the fabric. Okay, that's good. So it doesn't really feel like the egg's all the way coming down here. Like that. I'm gonna make the edge over here a little bit sharper. In that case, I'm going to soften the surrounding area, and then we're going to rebuild the edge. The same thing when you do watercolor. If you feel like that whole area, I cannot make it too light, I cannot lift it that much. In that case, lift the whole area, and you can come back to rebuild the outside, and that way may be easier for you. So I'm going to use a hard charcoal pencil. Now I'm going to come back here, rebuild it. I'm going to make this a little bit outer, so like that. That's good. That you can rebuild this edge. There you go. And then I'm going to have the bottom over here a little bit lighter. I need to give a little bit more dedicated attention to the egg at the front over here, because that is the main object of the main object. While you're doing the charcoals, by going around by round, you also create a texture and the feeling of the materials, and that's part of the feeling. Actually, what kind of texture you use, and based on the feeling of the materials. Now I'm gonna bring back some exclusive attention. I'll bring back some lines. So I'm gonna use this extra soft charcoal pencil, and that I can bring back some line. So over here, I'm gonna give some exclusive. I'm gonna have a little bit over here, bring back a little bit connection, but I want that line stay here. And I'm gonna have a little bit darker over here, but I don't want it to be too persistent, and that's it. And I'm gonna bring it back a little line over here. See that? I'm gonna have this line. I love that line, looks good. I'm gonna come over here. I don't want to bring too much line over here. I'm gonna stop over there, but I'm gonna start over here, bring back the line. It make it a little bit more interesting, as the line as part of the whole thing. I'm gonna tie it together and come back over here. I'm gonna have this a little dark and this a little bit dark, a little line like that, and brings back some line. Okay. And then on this side, I'm gonna bring back a little line over here. That's good. I like that. And over here, there's a little bit unsure. I'm gonna bring back a little line like that. That's good. And the top over here, I'm gonna bring back a little line, but I don't want it to be too persistent. I'm gonna stop it right there and make a little line over here. And now I'm gonna think about, maybe I'm gonna have a little line over here to bring back a little bit some accents of the drawing. I'm gonna have a little line over here like that. That's good enough. I'm gonna bring a little bit texture over here, a few lines, and I'm gonna actually put a line over here. I'm gonna bring it back, as important to make it visible, and not everything looks like a so over smooth. Like a little line over here, bring back over there. I'm gonna actually have a few lines over here too, and I'm gonna come here. I'm gonna bring a little line over here, a little texture. Like I said, I'm almost like I use the wood to draw. I use the wood to draw. So give a little bit and use the wood to create a texture. and bring a little roughness, and maybe a little bit too much over here. Soften that a little bit. Okay, this may be a little bit too much, like that. So you can bring back some essence to the drawing, not let it to be totally lost it. Okay. Over here, a little bit darker. Now I think the drawing is finished.
If you are an Enjoying Art member, please come to join us every Friday. We paint together. If you're not yet a member, please turn on notification so you are not going to miss any future videos.